Hello, everyone. Welcome to the light. Beg your pardon. Welcome to Great Awakening Generator. I was going to say light language messages. Sorry about that. I hope all of you are well. I'm Rose McNair, and today I have my beloved friend, Aaron Ellis, with me. So good to have all of you join us. And hello, Aaron, and welcome.
Thanks for inviting me again, Rose. It's a pleasure to be out back again.
You're always welcome here at the Great Awakening Generator, and of course, Light Language Messenger. So, Aaron, how have you been?
Very well, thank you. Looking forward to a great 2024, letting 2023 leave us with all these troubles and traumas that are behind us. And hopefully today I'd like to just talk about some ways that people can stay in the present and basically feel better about themselves.
Yeah, it's a strong theme, I think, right now to stay in the present, right? Because with everything that is happening, the density of the energies with unexpected things that, and it's not doom and gloom, it's just saying like surprising things are happening, right? You kind of need to keep yourself in a balanced state and just be able to stay present. So before we go to talking about our topic, please, I know you basically work as an hypnotherapist and a coach, and the business is called No Stress Now. Please tell us a little bit about that, and then we'll go to our topic.
So initially, I started off as a martial arts coach and strength coach, and then over
Yes.
the years, I realised that the mental part is just as important as the physical component when it comes to athletics. So I became a clinical hypnotherapist and started to give that. I call that the icing on top of all the physical training. So when we have someone that has all the physical abilities and it's all there, and we can really get their mind to hone in on the task, and once again to be present on that task and not worrying about what could be or what might be, we find that people can really perform at their best. I also use my hypnotherapy to help people overcome anxiety, increase their confidence, and just generally feel better about themselves.
Yeah, yeah, okay. And so I guess the uniqueness about what it is that you do is that it's not just about hypnotherapy from a clinical perspective and just about martial arts from the martial arts perspective. There's a lot of high vibrational, intuitive stuff that goes into this because you're so zen, usually, right? I guess that's that. I just want to reiterate that point because there's a lot of heart and soul in what you do.
So what I've done is all of the things that I've learned over the years, I've combined them together to put something in my head which I call complete strength. And complete being total, not lacking, and strength being strong in all endeavors. So all of the martial arts training, the physical training, the mental training, I've all put them together in such a way that they become layers upon layers that we can add them in and eventually become a whole complete person and usually perform at our best or just be the best that we can be.
Yes, very important. And also very important to be easy about that, right? So, Aaron, where can you be contacted?
So probably the best place at the moment would be to contact me on Facebook. It's facebook.com/, no stress now. And you can just shoot me a message there. I do have some websites, but at the moment they're being rebuilt and things like that. So you'll be able to find me later. We'll put those in the description. But at the moment,
Yes.
Facebook's probably the best place to find.
Yeah. And everyone, we ask Aaron this now so that you know in advance, and we will reiterate where to contact him. I will also put the links in the description box for the interview we did last year, but also Aaron did a free workshop with us here with a few people, and it was awesome. So teaching us some unique techniques on how to get into your calm space and be aligned and in very quick routine to get that to get into that space. So I will share those too. So that will give you an idea of what Aaron does in a practical perspective, from a practical perspective. So Aaron, today we're talking about remain more in the present. What is that?
Well, I'd like to start with the way that we often talk to each other. We find that we may have a friend and they say, "How are you today?" And they say, "I'm good." And then you continue conversation. On the other hand, that person hasn't had the best day, and you'll say, "How are you?" And they'll tell you exactly how that day went wrong. And they'll tell you in explicit detail of bringing that up. So, what I mean there is People are, when we speak to ourselves, we're either talking in the now, what's happening right in front of us, or we're talking about something that has happened in the past or something that will happen in the future. When we're living in the past or we're living in the future, we're not living in the present moment. And when we're in the present moment, that's when we can receive our stillness and we can be present to actually what's happening now. Because when we're thinking about something that could happen or something that has happened, it seems to create the emotion from that thought or feeling. So, what I want to talk about today is that the way that we speak to ourselves in our head, the way that we speak to other people, influences our own mind, and we almost program ourselves every day because we don't realize that we're often in a trance. And the trance is just, just looking around, you're thinking in your head, and we're speaking to ourselves all the time. And unfortunately, the way that we speak to ourselves and our emotions become our mood. And if you retain that mood long enough, that mood becomes your personality. So, for example, I love to give analogies and stories because it helps people put it together.
Yes,
We have
absolutely.
an old man whose wife passed away 20 years ago, and he's very upset about that. It was the love of his life, and every person that he meets, he tells them how upset he is, how his wife was taken away from him. He's living a lonely, miserable life, and because he's been in that mindset for so long, the people of the town know him as the angry old miserable man
Ah,
because that's the way that he would talk. But if we flip that script and that man decided to look at the positives of his relationship and said how lucky he was to have that wife and even that short time he had, that personality or that emotion would end up becoming a different man in the end. So we need to be very careful of how our emotions affect our moods, and then our moods become us. And it all starts from being in the present and focusing on what we want to achieve right now and not what could have been, what has been, and what could be.
yeah, I think that's such a valuable thing that you said there because it is about forward movement, right? Because if you keep looking back at what was, how are you going to see the direction for literally, how will you be able to see where you're going if or take the steps forward if you keep looking back? So it's very important. So I like that how you explained that for what it means. How do people do this?
Well, we need to start talking to ourselves and thinking in better and different ways. And the first thing we need to do is to acknowledge how we are speaking to ourselves, because often we do that unconsciously. And once again, notice that when you speak to your friend, are you telling them how great your day been, how good your life is, or have you been focusing on the things that haven't been so good? Because over time, we could say that in our brains, we could say that we have a forest, and that at the moment, the way that we've been thinking, the way that our moods are, is a nice, smooth path, and it's easy to take. And we just happen to do that without even thinking. Someone upsets you, you get cranky. It's just the way that we go. But there's another path that we can start in our brain that's a new path, and that's the path of change. And that might be the path of saying, how was your day? Well, actually, I'm not going to tell you how bad my day was, but I'll tell you something that was good this morning. I had a lovely lady at the shop, gave me a beautiful smile, gave me a tip, etc. And we start just noticing, oh, I've made a small change there in my thinking. And what happens over time is those two paths that we have, the path that was well worn, that we could say that negative path, or the path that's not the greatest, the less we tread on that path, the more that path starts to overgrow. And the more that we tread on the new path, and the new path's hard. It's going to take a machete. It's going to take some real effort to say, this is the path that I'm taking now. And the more that we consciously start to say, I want to make a change, and I'm going to be more present. I'm going to be more positive. I'm going to be more open and loving. You'll start to see that that path becomes ingrained. And then one day we realize that the other path is so overgrown that it's easier to take the new path.
Yes. Yeah. Yes, I so agree with that because I've learned this over the years as well. It's important to, like, if something happens, because it's easy. I think, historically, or maybe it's the programming we have in us that when something happens, it spoils the rest of our day. Or, I remember my dad always saying, if your Monday went badly, the rest of the week was going to go badly, that kind of thing. And, it was important that Monday, the start of the work week, had to go well, because if that day went well, every other day would go well. And my parents had kind of lived their motto on that. And so, having grown or lived their lives, it was a motto they lived by. Um, Having grown up in that environment, I remember as a young adult thinking the same thing. And over time, I've actually come to realize it does not matter. And I don't, I live life differently from that. But despite that, when I was younger, maybe even 10 years ago, it could be, and then that means I was older. Now you know how old I am. But it was very much like, oh, if something happened, it kind of had a bad taste in my mouth sort of feeling all day. It was like, oh, this whole thing governed my day. And I had to really learn. Part of my journey in awakening was to learn to not sweat the small stuff. And it's about that evolution of self, of mature, becoming older. Yes, but that doesn't mean becoming older means you actually overcome that, because you were just talking about an elderly gentleman now. The thing is, to as you awaken, you realize I can't let that thing that was so little define everything else that is so much more vast than that thing. And I have to live my life based on, oh yeah, that happened. That's fine. Um, so it happened. Okay, so what's next? Because there's so many other good things that can happen.
Mhm.
I find these days that I'm more on the new path that you mentioned. And if I'm having a time where something happened in my day and I can't kick it, I say kick it. I can't, then I think, what happened here today? Why haven't I been able to overcome that? You know, but that's the day I decide I'm staying indoors. I'm just going to get on with my life, and I'm just going to be with myself.
Yeah. So often when we have these interactions in our life, as we know, we cannot control external circumstances. Can't control the person that's accidentally going to swerve and run into the back of your car. But there's one thing that we can control, and that's the way that we react to things. And the way that we react is often built in from a young age. So once again, something happens and we instantly get angry, we instantly get upset. And there needs to be that small moment where we just stop for a moment and just go, reassess this. This is out of my control. What is reacting like this going to do for me? Is it going to make the situation better? Is it going to change it? So often we've got to look at this situation, and the way that we attach our emotion to it changes the whole thing, or changes the frame. So when I talk about frames are how we interpret things. So if I could tell you that a man and a woman in a Lamborghini ran through a red light, and instantly we start to feel some sort of emotion, like fast Lamborghini running through a red light, that's not good. But then if I change the frame and I say that that man actually had a pregnant woman in the car and they needed to get through that red light to go to the hospital, that frame has changed now. And all of a sudden, it wasn't a thief going through a red light, it was someone needing to get to hospital.
Mm.
So the way that we interpret things in our own brain, or frame it, change it. So, for example, you've been run up the back of the car this morning. You're now late to work. Everything seems to be off chops. There's nothing better than just to get angry at this. But then we could stop and go, well, how can I rechange this? Well, okay, it's a bit inconvenient, but I get a couple of times off work. I get to have a coffee. I might even get to call a friend. See some sort of positive outcome in these negative outcomes, to reframe them and make them your world and not someone else's external world that they're putting
Yes.
on you.
Yes, yes. Because, when we have reaction and we go with that, when we react to that, and if it's a negative reaction, and then maybe it spoils my day, and then I'm going to, if I don't well, not control it, but if I don't respond to it rather than react to it, I'm then going to be having this energy that could cause me to feel reactive in other ways to other things, and so start it up with other people. And so this is a very good way to be able to I suppose if you speak about energy, to be able to calm the waters, put the soothingness into situations, because we also have to remember that we don't know what that other person, like you just talked about the man in the Lamborghini going shooting through the red light, woman in the car possibly going to, well, maybe they were going to the hospital. We don't have to I guess we don't even have to find a reason. We just have to say, well, I'm observing, right? Do you think that's better to say, I'm observing that it happened? Okay, there were consequences that could have happened to it, but it didn't. But hey, um, you know, I don't know the circumstances, and so therefore I'm leaving it at that. Yeah.
So the thing is that it's not only affecting ourselves, as you said before, we're energy beings. And when
Yeah.
we get an emotion, the emotion increases our energy of that emotion. So not only do I become emotional and angry, but when I start to tell you about my emotional and angry day, my energy will start to come onto you, and you will start to feel that too. And you will start to agree with me and say, you know what, Aaron, you're right. This is not great. And we start to resonate on this
Yes.
not great energy. But then on the other aspect, we could talk about aspects of love. And love is like this huge thing. But really, in my perspective, love is being in the same space as others. And the more space that you want to consume of that person, the more you love them.
Yeah.
And there's different versions of love. There might be that partner love where you literally want to embrace and be in the same space completely. Then you have a friend where you're just happy to be in the same space, the same room as them. And this openness or this love, this acceptance is just being in the present. And it's not judging anything. It's just allowing it to be for what it is.
Yeah. Wow. Wow. Amazing. That's
And I
true.
think and I think that if we can get that stillness within ourselves, and as you know that we meet someone that's meditating or they're calm, we just tend to feel that aura. And we're like, you know what? I like hanging with that person. But the
Yeah.
thing is, we all have this ability. If you just have a little bit of joy in yourself, and then you go and talk to a friend and just see that joy, you won't even realize that you've left them with that little bit of something that will build up over the day.
Yeah. Indeed. You always make me feel zen, by the way. And even as I was sitting here talking when we started, I just almost feel like everything started to go, So you're
It's a good
practicing
place
what,
to be.
yeah, you said me practicing this, because I always, when I tell my daughter about you, I always say, Aaron, the one that makes me feel zen. Anyway, let's carry on. I didn't mean to digress. So Aaron, you've told us why, you've explained it. What else can you say more about this thing of remaining more in the present? Somebody might say, but hey, Aaron, you don't know what my day's like, and uh, I'm really struggling to do that. What would I don't know if I'm asking the same question again, but what would you be saying to someone? What techniques can they use to sort of
Okay.
start that
So
process?
first thing we want to do is we don't want to change anything. You are who you are at the moment, and I just want you to start acknowledging what you just said. So you start talking to someone, and then just when you say that, did I speak to them in a good way, a positive way? How was I speaking? And then just start to notice these little things. And then you'll start to get to a point where you've noticed just before you're actually doing it. Now, this is a process for everyone. It's not something that we can just become aware of. It's something that takes effort because you can imagine that, like our phone, we've got these apps that have been installed for 20, 30 years or more. And this app has just been running the same program. And
Yes.
unfortunately, in our brain, we can't update the app. We can't delete the app. But what we can do is we can start going, no, I'm going to actually create my own app. And I'm going to start by programming myself by just acknowledging. how do I speak to people? And you'll start to notice that there are two aspects of yourself. There is your higher self. There is this inside where you're thinking, you're always talking to yourself. And then there is the outside you. And when you start to notice that you're actually talking to yourself in a positive way, you'll actually start to notice that it's not just your brain thinking, it's your higher self communicating to you, allowing it to become physical.
Yes.
So once we start to acknowledge this, then we can start the practice. So we've started to acknowledge, and I've noticed that okay, when I meet this person normally, I tell them about such and such. I'm going to make an effort today to tell them about something different. And you'll walk away, and it's going to take an effort once again, but you'll walk away and you'll have a different feeling. And that's the different feeling that'll start to build your own app, your own
Yeah.
feeling, your new way of being.
Yeah. There's a lot of power in words, right? And we because we're giving attention to it. So, attention goes where your energy flows, or the other way around. You know how they say this, right? That anything you give attention to, that there's a lot of energy flowing to it, and you can make it your reality. That's the thing. And I find, and from my experiences, if I speak even about a certain topic negatively, or if I talk about something that's not, like, for example, I might be confused about something, and I keep talking about how confused I am about that, or how it's not shifting, I stay confused, and it just never shifts. And so
Because
I
you're
have nothing.
acknowledging it.
Yeah, and it's like, and the other thing is, so what we also have to realize is there's more than one perspective to a thing. There's more than one reason for why something is happening. There's no black and white only, or there's no only yes and no, or right or wrong. And I think what you're saying really helps us to deprogram ourselves if we practice it this way, or if we start living and feeling and operating from that platform. We also start to deprogram ourselves from all that programming we've got. Because you think about systems that we have in place, and now this is probably going in another direction, but it is a similar aspect. It is tied to the aspect. Quite often we view things in a certain way because of what we know it to be. We've been told, oh, this is the only way something has to be. If it's the any other way, then that is, for example, and I'm not encouraging anybody to break the law, but there might be a consequence where if somebody does that, that's breaking the law. Not every law that is there is actually logical, is what I mean, right? And so we operate from, okay, if you do that, that is breaking the law. And and then we have all those angsty feelings about you broke the law, whether we say it to that person or not. So I feel like when we operate like you're suggesting, we start to see things from a different perspective, because we start to realize as well that we're not here to judge other people's actions, especially if it's not, it's tricky. It's not, doesn't concern us. It's not threatening anybody's safety. We're not being called upon to look after, to jump to somebody's rescue. You know, I don't know. Maybe I'm going into all directions now when I say this, but you know what I'm saying when I say this, like,
Definitely.
um, like, okay, so the man who shot the red light, he shot the red light. That's breaking the law. You should get a fine for it, is what somebody might say. Sitting back and watching that, right?
Yeah.
But what were you
But
thinking?
then, but then we could change the frame again. That lady had actually been shot, and he needed to get to the hospital.
Exactly.
Like it was even more urgent than the pregnancy. And then that takes away the frame again. Well, of course he had to go through the red light. It's the
Exactly.
way that we think about something and we change it, because remember, words are spells. They're magic. We spell words every day. And when we speak, we're putting magic into the physical realm.
Yeah.
And this is
Yeah.
where I'd like to dive back. And previously, I've been talking about people in the moment of, okay, noticing that how I'm speaking. But we can step back right again and start with ourselves by just sitting, turning off all external noise, closing your eyes, and just sitting with yourself for 1 minute or more, and just noticing what's going on in your brain,
Yeah.
and noticing that there are repeating thoughts, there are loops, and your brain just keeps repeating them. And it's not until you slow down and actually become aware of them and observe them that you can actually realize they're there, and then you can start to take control of them.
Yes, yes, very interesting, right? Because if you have this repeating thought, it's you have to it's not operating from the present, is it? When you have a
Right.
repeat, when your response is, or we'll say reaction, when you react from a repeating thought, it is not a new experience. You're basing it on an old experience. And in
Yeah.
being in the present requires you to see everything as if it's just happening now. And we don't know, well, not requires, but it's encouraging. See it for now, not based on anything that happened in the past, not anything that you know of the past. To see this as a new event.
Yes.
Mm, yeah,
And
yeah,
seeing it for what it is and not what you think it could be.
yeah,
And then what I mean by that is, for example, um, a misfortune may happen that we attempt to, because this has happened, this future event, I'm not going to be able to do. I'm not going to be able to make it. And that's not true. We can say, hey, this is just the event here. Work on what's happening right here, and then the future will take care of itself.
exactly, exactly. And I mean, the thing is that anything that is for us will never bypass us.
Yes.
Speaking of that, right? So when you start to say, oh, this has happened, now I can't do that, and that thing is in the future, you don't know that you can't do that. Just
Mm.
for right now, this is what's happened. What's going to happen here, the consequences of this thing happening in the present, it could be something so different from what actually you're thinking it's going to be. So I guess we have to remember that thoughts create things, as so is words. There's power in words, but thoughts also create things because,
Mm.
energetic beings all the time.
We have
And
different levels of creation because
yeah,
we can create that as a thought, and that is a certain type of energy. And then we can speak that thought, and that becomes physical in our reality now. And
yes, yes,
it becomes even more solidified. So
yeah,
it's easier to work with a thought than it is to work with something that you've solidified and now believe is the truth.
yeah, indeed. Aaron, what else do you want to tell us about this? Because you told us what it is, you told us how to do it, why this works. Have we asked about why this works?
Excuse me. So the reason why it's working is because we're making a conscious change within ourselves. So remember, as we've been growing up, we've had many teachers in our lives, our mothers, our fathers, our friends, our family, and even people that we interacted with. Their energies and emotions taught us something. We may have been young and we saw some man had a trauma and the way that he reacted. And then as a child, that happens to you. And well, that's how that man reacted. Maybe that's how I should react because that was a learned response. So
Yes.
we're trying to become more present in ourselves to find out what is actually me and what are learned responses. And the only way to find out who you are and what's your real thoughts is to get rid of that external noise. Stop for a moment, turn off the TV, turn off the phone, sit there. And some people are scared to turn off all this because their mind will start screaming at them. It's like, oh my God, I've turned off the radio and the noise in my head is as loud as that radio. Well, let it play. Let it play. Let it get out some energy. And it may be for a bit that you can't handle it, but because you're allowing yourself to experiencing it, your body's going to allow you to release that. And then the
Yeah.
more you start to let it go and go, you know what? This isn't me. These have been thoughts that I've been building up that I've been stuck on. And it's only when you get in touch with yourself and not through anything else. And this is the hardest thing, Rose, because when people sit down to do meditation, it's like, okay, I'm ready to meditate. I close my eyes, or I'm itchy. Oh, I'm not comfortable. Oh, I'm not meditating. But this is all part of the process. Even if you can sit there for 1 minute and you're not comfortable, but you're trying, you're meditating, guys. You've made a step forward to stop that external noise and you've just something for yourself. So don't think that if you didn't meditate, because you did, because there's different levels of meditation. And then it will
Yes.
take one time where you'll just sit down and you'll go, oh, wow, I'm feeling quieter. I'm feeling more present. I don't know how it happened, but the body just said, you know what, it's time. You've been trying to put these in, and now it's just time to switch over.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I really like that. And it's not even something that is a big effort. I just something that's occurred to me, and this is it. I don't know how this what you've been speaking about has got it's such a huge theme. It's such a big message, and I'll say why. Because for a long time, and I say this because I've had this experience, and then I had this experience of how I live my life. So I've been living my life. But when that thing of remaining more in the present, when it hit me that my whole life, it would seem that every day of my life where I tell myself I'm living my life, I'm actually living the life that somebody told me to live. I'm not living the life that that the true me, the me that is here. Often I like things because my mother liked it. I use my parents because they are the easy references, right? I think that tastes good because they said it tastes good. I don't eat that thing because my mother didn't never cooked it, so I don't even know. So I never buy that. I never,
Yeah.
And so it's things like that where we start to come to the realization we live on this platform, but whose life are we living? How much of the life we live every day is that life that is truly the me that I am, that I have to live? This is not even talking about intuitive self. This is talking about your practicalities in your life that you're living. So, who taught you that? Have you tried something? For example, okay, what don't I eat? Perfect example, green beans. I mean, I used to think it's a vegetable from hell. All right. But I ate my mother's version of it. Sorry, mom. But when I thought, and so I hardly ever cooked green beans, in my house.
Yeah.
And then I started to discover green beans, and I thought, oh, okay, so I'll cook it like this, or I'll have it, or you can make it in various ways, and actually, it's quite delicious. So it's a simple example as that, but you think about that's a simple example. How many other things that are huge in our lives that we think, why am I actually didn't do this because I wanted to do it. What did I really want to do? What did I really think? What did I really feel?
Yes.
You know? And so I feel like that is a big, I don't know, that's a big shock to the system. And we realize that most of our lives, and that's happened to me, most of my life, I had to think, is this really me that's living here? Or do I live based on what someone else as told me or programmed me to?
Yes.
So
And that's another thing is there's lots of thought forms that we have in our world, and we're constantly being programmed. We have TV programs, we have radio programs, and obviously we're saying the word program because they're in a slot, but we can also use the word program because they literally put things in our mind that we start to believe to be true.
yeah.
So that's why I start to think that we need to just have these times by ourselves where we cut ourselves from the external world to really see who we are again. So
Yes.
what your thoughts are, or are you being caught in the mass community thoughts of Taylor Swift, this, that, all of this massive hysteria that the masses create has massive effects on ourselves as well. But by taking that little bit of time out and just unplugging to be able to revitalize yourself and be able to make those choices where you want to be programmed or what you want to believe or what you don't want to believe rather than just this is the facts.
Yeah. Yeah. This is the bottom line, right? To remain more in the present and to look at yourself on a day-to-day basis and how you respond to certain things or how you are you reacting or are you responding. This then, I think, filters out into the bigger things like, okay, so I watched that news report. What do I believe? Am I going to have a reaction to that? Am I going to have a reaction that freaks me out? Am I have a reaction of fear, worry, all of those things? And then I'm going to say, oh my goodness, look at this world, what it's like. And then I'm going to adopt the world, the attitude of, oh, it's a bad thing, bad world. Whatever is happening in the world, we have to create our own presence and our own present life, right? And it has to be, I always say, I use these words. It was words used by a gospel singer in the 90s. Whose report will you believe? Whose report will you believe? And when I say that, I don't mean just a report on TV or on the radio, but whose report will you believe? Even when you see something and it looks bad, whose report will you believe? Will you believe the report of your programming, like that person running through the red light? Or will you believe the report of intuition that lies within you? Will you believe that report within you? Because ultimately, at the end of the day, my report, if I had to tap into the report within me, it will tell me, you don't really know exactly what was happening there, Rose.
Definitely.
So,
We make it up. We fill in the details.
Yeah.
And often the details aren't the greatest details.
Yeah. Yeah. And to navigate our lives right now, coming back to the present, like how life is presently, we need to do this where we need to be present. We need to remain present, and we need to be also, no matter what's happening, they say seeing is believing. No, seeing is actually not believing anymore. You can see something, but it's not necessarily giving you the truth about that thing you're seeing, whatever it is,
Definitely.
right?
Definitely. But I'd like to finish today with, we have it we say that stop and smell the roses. And that means to be in the present, right? But I'm going to take that a step further. That what I want everyone to do is when you're finding your time a little bit of anxious and you want to be in the present, I want you to take a nice, slow breath out. And when you breathe in through the nose, I want you to imagine that you're smelling the rose. You can feel the air going through your nose and you're smelling that sweet perfume. And the air goes through in so soft and smooth that it naturally brings you into the present moment.
Wow. That was a mindfulness practice there already. Wow, Aaron, anything else before we go?
No, thank you very much for having me. It's always great to be on here, Rose, and to share my little bit of knowledge with everyone out there. And I just hope someone can get something out of it and just make their life better.
Thank you for saying that. And thank you very much for making the time to be here. And I'm so pleased that it was time for you to return. My intuition told me that, and that you were, and this was the perfect time for us to do it anyway. So thank you so much for that. And yeah, you're always welcome back. You know that we can collaborate, anything, always. Yeah.
Awesome.
Well,
Thank you.
everyone.
And I'll also send you a couple of links that we can put in that description for later on where people contact me. And other than that, everyone else have a great day, great night, wherever you are in the world.
Thank you, Aaron. Thank you so much for that. Thank you, everyone, for watching. We'll catch you next time here on the Great Awakening Generator. Bye, everyone.